Welcome to the Power of Your Voice podcast with your host, Johnny Gorky. You have the power to overcome challenges and fears. Let my voice and the voice of many others show you how to transform these challenges into opportunities. To learn more about future podcasts and read episode show notes, check out my website at www.thepowerofyourvoice.com.
Hi, it's Johnny, and this is episode 3. Today we are interviewing my sister Holly Bilicki, who is a beauty transformation coach. She hosts the Beauty Wisdom online series and is a accredited health educator from the Hippocrates Health Institute. She is also a graduate of the Garaf Academy of Raw Food Culinary Arts. Holly believes true beauty and wellness starts within. She is passionate about life and inspires people to be the best versions of themselves. Holly lives in Wisconsin, owns her own organic health salon, teaches whenever given the opportunity, and is dedicated to the continued pursuit of knowledge.
Hey, sister. So thank you for sharing your stories with the Power of Your Voice podcast. As my big sister, you know I greatly admire you. With all the things that you went through in your childhood, you have really transformed into this incredible leader, and I have always greatly admired you and looked up to you. I like to ask you 5 personal questions so that you can share your story of how you were able to overcome your fears and challenges in life. So my first question for you, my sister, is you left home at a very young age, Holly. Are you able to do this?
Thanks for having me here. I am so excited to be part of your podcast, and I love you so much, and this is just super exciting. So I have to start with that. Excellent question. How old was I when I left home? How was I able to do this? Well, I didn't plan on doing it. It just kind of happened. I was 13 years old, and as you know, our family extremely dysfunctional at the time. You were about 1 year old, and I decided that it was going to be in my best interest for me to leave home because the family, it was so negative. It had so much it was a heavy, heavy environment. As you know, obviously our mom, I used to say my mom, very dysfunctional, slow, childlike. It's not her fault. She did the best that she could, but it just wasn't a stable environment. I have to back up a little bit. Ever since I have been little in school, the school actually wanted to take me out of our home. I was in 3rd grade. I still clearly remember when the principal came and got me, walked me down to the office, and there was a school psychologist. They interviewed me, and they had told me that they had found a new family for me and that I would be happier with them. I had no idea what I had done wrong. I didn't understand it at that time. So that was one kind of like a red flag that I didn't get at the time. Another red flag, which was brought to me years later, is that when I was in 2nd grade, I actually found this out in my 30s, that, you know, my hair was very skinny, very thin hair. I'm a hairdresser, so I describe hair as like being thin and thick. So I had very skinny hair, a lot of it. Well, not really. I just had skinny hair. And it just didn't look clean. My pants were too short. I was tall. I was thin. I felt awkward. I was left-handed, which doesn't sound like a big deal today, but it was because I couldn't even like hold my scissors properly. Like I would try to grab a pair of scissors that were actually for right-handed people. To me, scissors were scissors, but no, they had to give me special scissors that had a left or a red handle on it. And I hated it. It totally made me feel uncomfortable. And I already felt uncomfortable because I had this whole conversation going on that I just didn't fit in, I felt like. And what happened was in 2nd grade, my teacher at the time had brought me to the front of the classroom and did a project, little to my awareness of that time. She did a math problem. What it was is to get my measurements so she could make clothes for me. I started receiving clothes in the mail, some shirts. I don't remember if there was anything else, but I would come to school and here I'd wear the clothes unannounced to me that she's the person that made them for me. And she'd said, Holly, you look so pretty. Another time I recall, she brought me to the front of the room. This is second grade again. And decided to curl my hair. Now, what that had to do with academics at the time, I have no idea. But it was the first time that I actually felt really pretty. I didn't really like people staring at me, but I felt very pretty that my hair was curled, you know? So moving forward, with all of this going on, I'm just kind of describing a little bit about the background here. I decided at the age of 13 years old, it was in my best interest to leave home. I had a girlfriend that had a lot of other problems at home. She lived in a small town 30 miles away. We had done a lot of research together, and St. Louis, Missouri was on our map. We found out it was the cheapest place to live, and all we needed to do, since we looked older for our age, was hop a Greyhound bus, go to St. Louis, Missouri, get a job, maybe waiting tables, whatever that was. And our goal is just to be left alone and live like a normal person until we were 18 years old. And that's all we had figured out at that time. So that's what I did. I walked. Go ahead.
No, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. No, I just wanted to ask and go back because, you know, people have to realize who are listening to this amazing podcast is back in those days, you didn't have Google, you didn't have iPhones and all this stuff. How are you able to research, like, where exactly am I going to go?
You actually went to the library. I went to the library and I pulled out those drawers, little Rolodexes, and I don't remember. I mean, it's not crystal clear on exactly, was I looking at magazines? Was I looking at books? What did I look at? I'd asked a lot of questions. I've always been a super curious person. And also, too, you know, growing up in Wisconsin, the weather's super cold. St. Louis, it's still the Midwest, but it's a little bit warmer there. So again, that was on our map. That's what we wanted to do. And I just want to add, so I had $50 in my back pocket. I didn't run away from home. I told Mom, I'm leaving. That's it. I'm done. She said, okay, and actually held the back door open for me. $50 in my pocket, blue duffel bag. I still remember. I walked down the driveway, down to the end of the road, hopped the city bus, went downtown, took a Greyhound bus 30 miles away, which was a big deal when you're 13 years old, taking a Greyhound ride. And like you said, without Google. But I knew where I was going. You know, I just knew that I would figure it out. It's kind of how I'm wired. I've always had a strong faith in God. I just figured it out. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? Fail. You just do it again. Yeah, well, and that's the thing. A lot of people would be very scared in that situation, but you knew something great was going to happen and you did it. Yeah, I was more inspired about what could happen and the possibility. And even at the age of 13 years old, I've always known, and we'll get into this later on, I've always knew that I was meant to inspire people. I love picking people up and inspiring them. I just didn't realize the route that I would be taking to do that. So I've always saw or felt that I was meant for something more, but I just didn't understand it at the time because I was so frustrated living at home. As you know, our parents, we didn't have a lot of money. They did not believe in education. Anybody that had money and was educated was a threat. They did not like them at all. Exactly. So, yeah, I was odd, very odd. So for anybody who's listening to this podcast, you know, who may have been or hasn't been in the foster home, can you tell a little bit about how that experience was and how that kind of shaped you into the person you are today? Foster homes? Well, what had happened is I wound up in there because, okay, so as I said, I had gone to the small town and I actually wound up never going to St. Louis. My girlfriend, she got cold feet. And what happened was she had introduced me to a friend of hers that, I don't know, there were some local kids in the area. Now remember, we're 13 years old. They were like 12, 13 years old, and they had a tree house. I have to add this here because it goes into the foster care system. This was summer, by the way, so there wasn't any school going on. So this guy had put me in his tree house, okay? Wow. He didn't try anything on me. He wasn't weird. He was just a nice guy. Actually, he had a girlfriend. He was a nice guy. And so he's probably amused, like feeding me sandwiches. It's the summertime, you know, it was close to a lake. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. And besides, I wasn't at home. So I was on cloud 9.
Yeah.
And, well, about 2 weeks later, his mother finds out.
Wow.
Food's disappearing. They have a tight budget. And who is this tall blonde in the treehouse? Really? And so she, of course, asked me. I told her the story I just shared with you and your audience that, hey, my mom, she held the back door open for me. Oh, yeah, sure she would. Sure she would. I have nothing to lie for. I mean, there was no value in it. And I was ignorant. I just didn't know. And he said, oh, you're a runaway. I didn't even know what the hell a runaway was. Runaway? What are you talking about? I didn't run away. I walked away. She held the back door open for me. So police were called. There wasn't a missing report on me. All right, see, I told the truth. Yeah, like for personal hygiene stuff. And I said, look, if you take me in, I don't even care about that. I can work. I'm highly motivated to work. My main goal is I just wanted to be 18 years old, move out of the state of Wisconsin, go somewhere warm and start a new life. I didn't know entirely what that new life looked like yet, but that was my goal for the next 5-6 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So foster care, I wound up living with my former 4th grade school teacher 3 different times. I was in temporary foster homes. There was a foster home which was permanent that, of course, wound up to be temporary. And I'm just kind of painting a picture here, is that 3 of the women were, I don't know if they were all pregnant. I can't remember. I want to say that they were pregnant. There was some cocaine going on. For the record, I can honestly say I've never done cocaine. I've always been scared too. Didn't want to die. Didn't want to be one of those people. And I thought, I'm not trying that. I see people around me doing it. Doesn't look exciting or good. That is what scared me. I love life. I wanted to live. So I didn't touch it. With that said, I saw this going on and I said to the woman, I'll make you a deal. I had a boyfriend at the time. He lived on the other side of town with his grandfather. And I said, look, I will go ahead and not say anything if you don't say anything. You can have all my money. And this is where you're going to find me. I'm going to my boyfriend's grandfather's house. Okay. That's what I did. Until, of course, they busted me. And then they said I ran away. Then I got pissed. I was like, no, I did not run away. She knew where I was. And if you really want to know what's going on, this is what's going on. They didn't believe me. But 6 months later, the foster home closed. For why? Doing drugs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so my amazing sister, I'm going to ask you another question. So at a young age, you left school.
Yes.
How were you able to overcome your lack of traditional education, or I should say traditional public education? Did you go back to school, and how did you overcome this? Because dropping out of school, it's a very hard thing to do. It's hard to get a good job if you haven't graduated from high school.
Mm-hmm. No, it's an excellent question. And I will have to be honest with you. So for a long time, I didn't talk about this. I had a lot of guilt and shame, which, by the way, guilt and shame makes you a prisoner. Release it. It's not even worth it. I mean, just putting that out there.
Exactly.
So I completed 8th grade and I attended high school for a month and I wound up dropping out. I just had a lot going on. Like I explained some of that earlier. And what happened was, I felt like a couple of things. A, I had a lot going on, and B, the classes that I was taking or that I needed to take, it wasn't giving me any life skills. I needed life skills, how to handle emotional instability, how to go out and get a job, how, all these other things, not like, I don't know what it was, algebra, history, which of course I love history now, but at the time I was like, well, I don't care about the history. I need to know what my history is going to be. How is this going to apply to my life? Yeah. So anyhow, so what happened was I dropped out of school. I eventually did go back and I got my GED. And I do have to add, before I got my GED, okay, I've always loved to learn. I've always read, super curious. I've always asked lots of questions, which I think is my saving grace. And before I went back and got my GED, because I had a lot of guilt and shame about dropping out, I kind of felt like I was dumb. I mean, I felt stupid. I thought, oh my God, you're only brilliant if you finish high school. This is the conversation that I made up about myself. And I needed to prove to myself that I could do college work. Now, I did have a hard time with math and I had a hard time with science because what I learned was they're building blocks. And when you miss just about 4 years of high school of math and science. Those are building blocks. So I really had to hustle. Boyfriend at the time, now husband, he really helped me get through that. But I knew I had the smarts to do it. So I decided a sociology class. Loved it, did very well. And to this day, I still remember my paper. It was how we live in a throwaway society. And I was mad because I only got a C and I thought I deserved an A, because it's exactly how we see the world now. We throw everything away. Everything away, including people.
We do.
And that's what that paper was about. And I still remember that. And I'm thinking, who's the smart one here? Anyhow, I'm just, apparently it still bothered me. So yeah, I went back, I got my GED, and then I wound up going back to school. I went back to college, studied mass communications.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. So one thing you did is you started an incredible business. No matter wherever you worked, people always admired you. You were a leader and you always moved up and moved up. So eventually, people followed you. You started a very successful hair salon. With your background, how were you able to achieve this incredible amount of success?
First of all, what is successful? How anybody out there listening to this, how do you measure success? For me, all I wanted to do was make a really good living, inspire people at the end of the day. And, some people have it harder than others. People don't see their natural beauty. And it was my job, and it's still my job, to bring people's natural beauty out. That's what inspired me. And so as far as putting a salon together, that was easy for me. That was easy because all I did was I looked around and saw what everybody else was doing. What kind of environment, I asked myself, did I enjoy experiencing? Coffee shops. What did other people enjoy experiencing? Coffee shops. I've done a lot of traveling. I'm very blessed. I have friends everywhere. And so this was before actually the cell phones as they are today. So I carried a camera with me and I took pictures of coffee shops and I took pictures of spaces that I enjoyed being in that were very peaceful. And slowly I started putting the image together in my mind of what I wanted my place to look like. What actually finally made me shift to go out and do it is I was working at a salon, and at that time, I was managing a well-known salon here. I overheard a conversation between the owner and my immediate boss. They didn't know that I had heard this, but he was actually yelling at her, saying she was too old to be doing hair and that nobody would want to get her hair done by her. She was 50 years old. I thought, you know what? Someday I'm going to be 50 years old. That could be me. So anyhow, I just did what I just got done saying. And that's what motivated me to go ahead and build my own salon. And I have to say, I had a couple of people that came into the salon right when I opened up the doors. This one guy, he had said to me, he said, I can't believe you're opening up a salon. What happens if you fail? I said, well, then I fail. I mean, what does that look like? You fall down, you pick yourself back up, and you do it again. What is the worst thing that can happen to you? He goes, yeah, I never thought about it that way. Now, I never asked him what he thought failure was, but he decided to go ahead, open up a bar, which he still has today. But, it's kind of exciting because we never know. I happen to know on how my one thing that I've done inspired somebody to do something else. But this is everyday life. We never know, just like this podcast of yours, we never know how we're going to inspire another person. And we don't always need to know if we're going to inspire another person, but there could be something that you say, you seed somebody. It could take 10 years to sprout. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, we're all here and we're supposed to love each other and pick each other up. And I got a little sidetracked here with your question, but
yeah, no, I mean, that's so very true. I mean, the biggest reason why most people fail is because they never even start. They're so stuck in their head that they're going to fail. And it's so unfortunate because people have these amazing ideas that really could be great businesses, and they're businesses that people need. It's things that we really, really need, but unfortunately, they just never start because they think they're going to fail. So my next question to you is, Every single day you wake up, what keeps you motivated to continue what you're doing today?
It's a fresh day. What can I start new? Who can I motivate? Who can I inspire? I have this sounds kind of silly. I love life. I love people. I love socializing with people. And what motivates me is knowing that I can motivate other people. That's what motivates me at the end of the day. I am so passionate. I am so passionate about inspiring people because nothing, you know what? Here's the thing, Johnny, is that so many people get stuck in their story and they argue against their limitations on what they can't do. When I was younger, this would piss me off. I would think, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you complaining? Like, seriously? I have been through blah, blah, blah. And I've never wanted to play the victim role. That's never been my story. But the point, of course, I was making this conversation up in my head, like, thank God you can't see bubbles above my head when I'm thinking. And I was like, what the heck is that about? Not understanding on how people work, not understanding that people just repeat what they know, not understanding that they feel safe by not stretching themselves out, not understanding that, like you had said earlier, people are so afraid to fail. And what is failure? I mean, you pick yourself up, you do it again. It's not a big deal. And I say this all the time. This is one of my mantras. It's only a big deal if you make it a big deal. Let me repeat this. It is only a big deal if you make it a big deal.
That's so true.
Yeah. So back to motivation. I honestly am motivated. I've always been motivated by making a difference in somebody's life. That's what gives, that's the fire. That's the fire within me. So that's it.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
So tell me a fear or a challenge that you had that you were so extremely proud that you were able to overcome and turn into something really great.
That's a really good question. I guess the biggest one for me is going ahead and getting that GED. I mean, it was years ago, but having never gone to high school, really, which is a blessing in disguise because so many people that go to high school and they seem to be traumatized, where I was so mad because I wanted to put myself in this box, which sounds so silly because it's so unlike me. But yeah, I admit I wanted to put myself in this box because I thought that I was missing something. I didn't fit in. Oh my God. And actually, it was a blessing that I was forced to be out of the box. And so it was really a big deal when I got my GED because I was like, yes, I worked my ass off and I got it. And if I can do this, I can do anything. And that was a little bit harder because those two pieces, the whole math and the science, were very difficult because, like I said, it was a building block. But I refused to give up. I am so stubborn. I'm going to keep doing it again and again and again until I get it. And again, the whole thing. It's only a big deal if I make it a big deal. I remember, and you know her, I'm going to say her name, Val, friend of mine I had met. And, she had said to me, she said, Holly, the best thing you can do is constantly listen. I don't think podcasts were around, audio books, which are still around, but they were like cassettes and stuff like that. Listen, learn, listen, learn, listen, learn, constantly. Feed your mind, be mindful of what you feed your mind. And so, I don't know, I guess I've experienced so many fearful things that after a while, what's the worst thing that can happen? I don't know if that really answers your question or not.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Yeah, thank you so very much. What's something you want these listeners to take away from this?
Life is a precious gift. You can't buy it. Enjoy it. Take the time to sit down and have a conversation with your loved one. Find out what their favorite color is. Ask what they enjoy doing. Know their favorite foods, where they enjoy traveling. Maybe what are your biggest fears? Why? What is the worst thing that could happen to you if you try something new? And then when you go to that, dig deeper. Where is that coming from? What are you so afraid of that paralyzes you or that doesn't allow you to live your best life? What happens if you remove that fear and you could do anything in the world and nobody had an opinion and money did not make a difference? What would that be? What would your day look like?
Wow. Person could pretty much achieve anything.
Exactly. Exactly. The only thing that often blocks us are the cobwebs stuck in our ears. So it's up to us, no matter how optimistic, how motivated, how positive you are, no matter if you have your own back, everybody around you has your back, you have a strong faith in God, it is still up to us to clean those cobwebs out and do your inner work. Constantly learn, grow, stay curious, ask questions. Don't be afraid to fail. Because on the other side of failing is success. To me, back to your question, success is living your life on purpose. To me, that's success.
I love it. Well, thank you so very much for your time, big sister Holly. I love you so, so very much, and I greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be part of this podcast, and I know this is going to reach so many people, and it's going to change lives. So thank you for putting this together.
You're welcome. And by the way, what is your favorite color? Because I don't know.
Purple.
Purple. The color of royalty.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. How can I go wrong?
Thank you. I love you.
Love you too. All right.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Your Voice podcast. Subscribe to our podcast to hear more empowering stories and check out thepowerofyourvoice.com to get show notes about each episode, listen online, leave comments, and learn more about each guest on the show.